American wing joint.
The following program is produced by the AM First Radio Network and distributed by Global American Broadcasting, the GAB Radio Network.
Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Andrea Rodeman. This week, like every week, I will be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our communities. This week, the subject or the topic that we have is going to be respecting and protecting our elders and women and its impact on the Black and brown community. All right. So, Rosa.
Yep.
All right. So I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about. Well, I'm gonna talk to you a lot about this
Awesome.
subject, and I want to get. I mean, especially when I'm talking to you, because you obviously are a millennial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious as to, your opinion and insight into this particular topic. I'm going to begin with the first issue, and that is, how do you define respect?
How do I define respect? I think it's treating others fairly.
Treating them fairly?
Yeah, that's how I would define respect.
And how does that impact when it comes to the issue of respecting elders?
Well, I feel like, I think this is where my millennial comes out. Age does not imply respect. And I think that negative attitudes, regardless of age, are negative attitudes. I think that the problem with awarding someone respect based on their age is that it diminishes the value of that regard. And I think that we should listen to what our elders have to say, because obviously they possess ideas and wisdom that we do not have. But I think age should not be a criterion for deserving respect. I think that treating others fairly and with kindness earns respect.
Okay. And you're saying that when you say treating them with kindness, because I think that when it comes to the issue of respecting elders, I think that the primary issue has to be, at least for me, comes within the family structure.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, because that's typically where you're going to, I guess, encounter that as far as trying to, and the impact of it, right? You're respecting elders within your family, whether it be your grandparents or whatever it may be. I think that's where we kind of get into that discussion and where, it gets important.
True.
And so I think in some cultures, I think different cultures approach it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that for me, at least and even within, I think, even for me as an African American, and I think even within the African American culture, I think that it varies based upon maybe, where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I know that I'm from the South, and being from the South, respect is everything. It's really more important than anything, at least at the time that I grew up. For example, there were certain things that you would say when you speak to someone who is older than you. There's a certain way that you address that person. It's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I mean, that's the way it went down. You never said, yeah, no. You couldn't even say, huh. You'd have to say, ma'am, sir. And there was consequences for not expressing that type of respect, to your elders. That's how the issue of respect, or at least the way I was, or if someone down the street, we had to respect other people's parents almost to the same degree that we respected our own parents. So, in other words, you could get admonished by an elder somewhere else, you didn't talk to us. So, in other words, if you go next door, you act up, those elders could admonish you, you know, and then you would probably get admonished again when you got home. You know what I mean? So, and then the question would be, what was the ultimate purpose of that? I guess that would be the question. I mean, because I know a lot of people, would ask the question that as we deal with each other on, I think it goes almost to the understanding of entitlement. And this is how I think it relates to that. Now, clearly, every elder and every person who's reached an old age may not have, um, some have done more than others. I guess that's the best way to say it. I mean, some
Yeah.
people may have done more that would demand or command or deserve more respect, right? I mean, and that's all subjective, right? And so the whole idea is that as a person who is younger, as a 22-year-old, or as a 21-year-old, or 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, I did not believe there were certain things that I felt that I needed to do in order to command a certain type of respect, especially a respect from an elder or to be an elder. That's kind of how I did it. For example, when I'm, um, you know, when I would meet someone who happened to be an elder, then I carried myself. I would not talk to an elder in the under almost any circumstance the same way I would talk to someone that was my same age. In fact, I tried to avoid elders when I was, because it was uncomfortable, because I always felt like I had to be on my best behavior because I was in the presence of someone who who was an elder. And so, and I think that when you have that type of culture and that so-called rites of passage, then I think that it has to do with your grooming and your growing, and understanding the knowledge and the wisdom of those who came before me. I always tell people my grandfather was a janitor, and my grandmother worked at a factory, and she worked at a cleaners at one time. They had anywhere from a fifth to eighth grade education, and in today's society, one may look up on people like that based upon their education level and may not necessarily be deserving of respect, because we tend to respect people based upon money and education in our society. For me, I felt like they deserved respect because not of their what they were able to endure, what they were able to contribute, the fact that they were able to raise a family regardless of what their educational background may have been, and that knowledge. There's nothing that I could ever learn at a institution of higher learning or in any other setting that would be more valuable than what I learned from my elders. Don't even come close. There's nothing that I learned in law school, undergraduate school, when I got my master's degree. None of that is more important than what I learned from my mother and my grandparents. That was value. My uncles and my aunts. That was a real education to me. And I think today, you know, we don't value the knowledge and wisdom of our elders. You know, there's knowledge and wisdom, and sometimes because we think we know so much, and even people, and I'm not just talking about millennials. I mean, it goes below that. You know what I mean? There's people in my generation that feel like, because my generation was one of the first generations that really were, you know, benefiting from, as at least from the African American community, and I'm sure also from the Mexican American community and other black and brown communities. It's really my generation and below me that really benefited from that. And sometimes when we get on and we get that education, we forget about our elders and we kind of slight them and make them feel less than. And, you know, they are the ones that put us in this privileged position. And we forget about that. You know, we forget about the fact that we got here because of certain things that they endured. You know, I wouldn't be here had it not been for the fact that my, you know, grandparents went through the Jim Crow era. You know, they lived in places where people were taken out of their homes and hung. You know what I mean? And they had to endure that. And, you know, so I feel like that those individuals, I deserve a certain amount of respect because they paid the price for me to be in a privileged position. And I think
for a radio show but have no idea where to start? Or have you been hosting a podcast for a while and want to take it to the next level? If so, you need the Gab Radio Network. To host a show on the Gab Radio Network, all you need is your voice, and we'll handle the rest. From technical engineering to full-service audio production and much more. Every show on the Gab Radio Network can be heard on our station on the TuneIn Radio app. Plus, we put all of our shows on our satellite, which is accessed by over 5,500 stations. And here's the best part. You can host from anywhere you want. There are many means to connect to the Gab Radio Network remotely, and our staff of highly trained engineers and producers will make you sound like you're right here in studio. So, if you want to be on the Gab Radio Network, the same network that hosts the Small Business Advocate, Radio MD, and The Federalist, send an email right now to sales@gabradionetwork.com. That's sales@gabradionetwork.com.
Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew. We're talking about respecting and protecting our elders and our women. So anyway, so before we went to the break, and I kind of delved into, you know, how, at least from my perspective, how I saw the whole issue of respecting, you know, the elders and kind of the significance of it and how it may actually differ, because it's kind of difficult to say, at least from my perspective. I can see how it varies within this country, within different communities, the communities within this country. And is that the same within the Mexican American community?
I mean, I think I wouldn't be able to speak on behalf of all Mexican community, but from my perspective, I'm a first generation Latina. My parents came here, migrated. If it wasn't for them, I would probably be born in Mexico and not have the opportunities that I have today. So that has a lot to do with me respecting my elders and having that conservative view on, I owe everything that I have to the people that came here before me. But I think that there's a strong sense in the Mexican American millennial community about the fact that we don't see the previous generation they don't see the previous generation in some aspects as deserving of respect, because of the fact that if you think about the millennial generation, they're one of the poorest in the history of America. We were born into this era of recession, and there's a healthcare education crisis. It's really nearly impossible to buy a home, to own anything for yourself. And we are the generation where, on average, people still live with their parents at the age of 26. And it's because we're one of the poorest, because a lot of millennials feel like, unlike your generation who feels like the previous generation really worked hard to set them up for success, some people in the millennial generation feel that that's exactly the opposite of what happened with the previous generation that came. It seems like they weren't trying to set millennials up for success. But that's a general opinion that I see a lot within the millennial community. But as far as my own opinion about respecting elders, I'm very conservative, because I owe everything that I have and everything that I will ever achieve to my parents, my grandparents, and everyone that has come before me.
Right. And and sometimes I think that that's kind of where we lose touch with, and you mentioned the whole idea of setting this up for more. I mean, because I think the same thing exists in the African American community, where a lot of times we look back and we kind of condemn our prior generations for the way in which they handled certain things, and saying, they should have been this, or they should have done that, or they were passive, or we're not like that generation, and that sort of thing. And we feel like that basically we put chains on them, and we really don't allow them to actually grow and move. But I think that, sometimes we have to back up, and I believe that values and money, because that's really what it boils down to when we think about the millennials, because and anybody else. I'm not just saying millennials. We're a very money driven, type of society. That means everything to people. And sometimes, the question would be, for me, that sometimes money isn't as important as sometimes, we make it. You know what I mean? So in other words, I think that when I look back in, our value system is more important than money. Because when you think about, let's think about a family. Let's think about, I watched the movie King Richard about, did you see that?
Yes, Serena Williams, yes.
Yeah, and how he moved, and regardless of what you thought about him as a human being, he was very much in touch with values, with his value system. When you talk about the times in which he was nobody could relate to that, because you've seen people from rich people who would go up and, offer money, and they grab the money. And then when I remember there was the one tennis player who basically had gotten $2 million in a deal, and she ended up, going to jail, being arrested, and all this other stuff. And he said, I don't want that. So he didn't, that was what he was trying to do. He was trying to protect his daughters, even if it meant, not being as successful financially. He was willing to risk that. And I think that those are the things that we can learn, I believe, from our elders, is that basically, that although it, money is like the lifeblood in America. It means so much. We want to act like money means nothing, but money is it's like you can't do anything without money. I mean, you have to have money to live. You have to have money, So we're really, it's just so important, and we have to put so much on it, so much importance on it. But at the same time, when you if money allows you to, compromise your values, then it doesn't matter. And most of us get our values from our elders. We might not get money from them, but we do get values. And sometimes when you see people who come from certain communities who may seem like privileged communities, they don't have any values. You know what I mean? So values is something that can sustain you, because many of those individuals, it's like most of us from our communities, we could really live poor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just like, I can eat, noodles and potatoes, and live in a studio, and I wouldn't go out and take my life because of that. You understand what I'm saying?
I totally did.
Yeah. Whereas some people, although they may have came from privilege, they cannot deal with hardship. And we can deal with hardship. And I think that sometimes, we don't value that we, the values of it and and not compromising. And so, I think that's kind of the reason why I feel like that in certain communities, I think is very important. And sometimes we don't appreciate it, because we do spend a lot of time talking about, how we can do better. And we talk about economics and, how we need to deal, the money issue, which is important, but sometimes we tend to forget, the great things that come out of being from certain communities. There is a blessing from it when you don't even recognize it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, there's a lot of blessing from that. And I think that that's sometimes when in our generation, where we have a lot of suicides in our generation, younger people, the thing are not being able to endure certain things, and the respect, and a lot of it is like we see less and less respect. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the thing that I look at from that issue.
Yeah, and I think it definitely, like you mentioned, I think it has to go back to the culture in America and how we just view ourselves valuable for what we produce, but not valuable for who we are.
Right.
And every time you have a conversation with someone, the how's work? What do you do? What is your career? Always comes up, but never the how's your family holding up? How are you as a father?
Right.
Nobody congratulates you for being a great dad, a great mom, a great grandma.
Right.
But everybody congratulates you if you get a degree,
right,
or 2 or 3.
Yeah, and you could be a terrible
nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands, serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion on respecting and protecting our elders and our women. Did you have a thought that you wanted to continue with from the last segment?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I guess the next question that I have, and I'm jumping around, but when we do talk about the issue, and you began with a sentiment that I think a lot of people have when you did mention the issue about a lot of people especially when we're talking outside of our family structure. And when we're talking about whether someone deserves to be respected just based solely on the fact that they are an elder. And so, again, I think that goes back to the issue is that should respect be conditional?
Well, I mean, I think I would have to say that treating others fairly and with kindness would earn respect.
Yeah.
That's the condition, I would say.
Right. And it's kind of interesting for me because, in this, because everybody's, again, as I said, that everybody is different and everybody's got their own idea of what respect is, and how you display, respect. And, the way that you approach, I'm not going to approach, and I guess I just have to say it. I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm 55. Mm-hmm. If I was to speak to a 75 or 80-year-old man, regardless, I'm not going to talk to him the same way I talk to someone my age or younger. I'm just not going to do it the way I approach people. And so that is significant, in the family dynamics. If I have a son, My son is not going to talk to me the same way I talk to him. You understand what I'm saying? My daughters are not going to talk to me the same way I talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if I feel like as a parent that you can chastise, and when I say chastise, I mean in a way in which you should do this or you shouldn't have done that, or because typically because you're looking out for their best interest.
Definitely.
But I do not think that, with the exception of a few, I'm sure there's are exceptions because they always are. A child does not have the right to chastise his parent. I just don't see that.
Yeah.
And I think that we live in a time. I mean, it's like people do jokes. We talk about comedians when people do jokes about certain people and certain cultures, and they're like in the in the grocery store, and a kid says, "Hey Jane," or "Don't do this," or they're talking back to their parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a complete no in our community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just that's a good way to get just knocked out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that's the reason why, there's a certain way that you're not going to talk to your elders or your parents or your grandparents the same way you talk to people out on the streets, or your aunts or your uncles. It's just not it's just inappropriate from my
Yeah.
perspective. It's an unwritten rule. That's social order. You just don't do that. And I think that if you have that, that is, it also has an impact on how you deal with authority for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Valuing your elders, you're talking about people that have disrespect for rules, regulation, and laws. I would say that kind of carries over. And just because, and when I talk about rules and regulations, some people are treated differently when they deal with everyday rules and regulations. Like, some people, when they get stopped by the police, they can question the police and the police deal with them like, there's nothing. In other words, like, hey, you can't do that. Don't tell me this. And they can just do all kinds of stuff, fight the police, and then don't get tased or shot or anything.
So true.
But you have certain people for certain communities that question the police, and you might get shot or tased or whatever, beat up or killed or whatever. And so, that's where it starts. I mean, to me, I think that if you can't value and respect your elders, especially your parents, then I think, that has an impact on you as a human being, no matter what you achieve in life. You know what I mean? So, so that's kind of where I think that it kind of bleeds over to the whole idea that we've gotten into this society where parents have been stripped of a lot of its ability to chastise and deal with children the way that they used to. When you seen CPS, when they came into, you seen King William when CPS comes
Yeah.
to his
Yeah.
house and he says, "You're over here dealing with this." I mean, they could have been out on the street selling crack.
So true.
You know what I mean?
So true.
And
Especially in the communities they were in.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, sometimes you have to deal with your children in a way in which, when I look back, especially up until the time that I got into probably till I was 16 years old. You know what I mean? I ain't gonna sit up here in front. When I got 16, I was a 16-year-old kid, right? I'm backsliding left and right, right? But up until the time that I was really 16 years old, I was pretty much, I didn't get to go anywhere. I couldn't go down the street. Kids could go places that I could not go when I was a kid. I couldn't just get up and get on my bike and go anywhere. I look back and at the time, I'm thinking, you think one thing, but as you get older, you realize that you were being protected.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with a parent trying to protect their children, right?
Sure.
And the same way, and sometimes parents can be, there is no real, uh, education on how to raise a child. Sometimes the people who have the talk shows and some of these therapists don't even have children themselves. And some of them that they have the most screwed up children that there is, right? While they're trying to use their education and psychology and therapy and stuff like that. You know, it's not that easy, you know, being a parent and watching a child grow up and trying to navigate this world. And there's so many things that you can get into, you know, that as a parent, you know, you have sleepless nights about where is your child going, you know, you can't go there, you can't, and then to have the child to also disrespect you because they don't like the way you're overprotective or you won't let them go certain places. You know, you see things like that happening nowadays. And like I said, CPS gets involved in everything. And so, you know, I mean, I think that we're just entering a time where now you don't have to respect your parents, and I think society has a whole lot to do with it. And we live in a society where we accept so much, you know what I mean? We accept so much negativity, you know. And now that you see less respect for your elders, you're going to see less respect for people, for each other. And I mean, it basically, it's going to parallel. And I think that that's what we're going to continue to see.
Yeah, and I think I couldn't agree more. I feel like we're living in a time where the family structure is really being attacked.
Right.
It's never praised. It's never looked at something that's honorable to have a family nowadays.
Yeah.
Most people are in survival mode when it comes to the millennials.
Right.
You have to work 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet sometimes.
I don't know. You telling me millennials are working 2 or 3 jobs?
There's a lot. Trust me.
I'm just kidding. I didn't even know y'all worked.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
The reason why we've had so many people quit their jobs is because there's also this whole generational aspect of wanting to have the work-life balance.
Yeah.
And in a lot of very conservative, older generation jobs, you know, you're expected to work at any time 24/7 and there's no work-life balance. So that's why you have a lot of the younger generation kind of exiting the workforce, because now you also have access to technology where a lot of people become influencers. They work with their computers and they don't have to show up to the office.
Right.
So there's definitely, you know, I think there's definitely this generational gap of just the family being attacked. I think that there's a lot of gentle parenting that is taken a little bit too far. I think that I myself am a gentle parent, but I don't want to be your friend. You know, I'm here to guide you and correct you as your parents. And I think that a lot of parents out there that are young take gentle parenting to the level of, we want to be your best friend. And I think that's where the disrespect starts to show. I mean, if you want to be your child's best friend, they're not going to see you as a figure that they should respect.
Right.
They're going to see you as a figure that, you know, they can hang out with and talk to however they want.
Right. Right. I agree with that 110%. I mean, you know, I mean, it's good. It's nice to have a good relationship, you know, with your parent, but that's your parent. And there has to be that line. And then, you know, you'll end up having, I mean, some of these, you know, we see some of these celebrities and their relationship with their children, you know, it's unhealthy, to say the least. But at any rate, please do not touch that dial. We'll be back on the other side of Justice Watch right after this break.
There's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew. And as we continue with our discussion on protecting or respecting and protecting our elders and our women. So we've talked a lot about the elders, which, and what about women?
I mean, as a woman myself, yes, we need to respect women.
Well, okay. So my question is, like I know last week when we had a discussion about what happened with Will Smith, we kind of got into a discussion about the fact that, and I've heard it a lot, the whole idea of why do you feel like a woman needs to be protected? That seems to be kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does that play into, play into the situation? I mean, is it, and is that conditional?
I mean, I tell you, as a millennial myself, as a working woman, as a mother and a wife, I feel that by slapping this guy, he was making a statement as well that his wife was unable to defend herself from words. As a millennial woman, I tell you, I feel like I have a voice and I don't need my husband to stand up for myself. It actually bothers me if that were to have been him. But that's just me. A lot of women have a different perspective on what they expect their spouses to do in those situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I guess I'm just old school when it comes to the issue of trying to, because we live. Let's just go back. We live in a society where we're very sensitive. about everything. I mean, right now, and some of it is tragic because we do have people, children who are taking their own lives because they're being bullied, and these words that that people are saying things, and people are it's at an all-time high. We see it on the internet where these kids are bullied all the time, and and when we say that words aren't hurtful or hurt, words can't cause any kind of imminent harm. I mean, now that we are in tune nowadays, I'm not saying I'm rolling with it, but now that we're in tune nowadays with the whole emotional and psychological impact of the issue of being condemned and depression and all these other things that are huge, then I'm just kind of surprised that people were not a little bit more sensitive with regards to what happened as far as what Chris Rock said. And so emotional and psychological, like, let's just say that, because, and again, I mean, I don't want this to become a Will Smith discussion, but I do want to make, as we noted before, that this was not the first time. So there could be some things behind the scenes that we really don't know about as far as what led up to it and made it seem that maybe, hey, maybe they had a discussion before. Maybe she was going through, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? But, I think that a man does have to protect, women. I think it's a man's responsibility. I mean, I know that might sound chauvinist, but when you talk about the family structure being under attack, I mean, I think that goes along with it. I think that I came from an era and from a background and upbringing by watching the men around me and my grandfather being the providers and the protectors of the women in the family, and being a father of 4 daughters. And me and my wife just celebrated our 36th wedding anniversary. I always felt like it was my responsibility to protect my wife. If something happened, if somebody said something to her, or was, because, I mean, especially if it's a man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I think it kind of like, because, I would hate to be in a situation where, you have a woman that is being attacked verbally by a man, and her husband just sits there and doesn't say anything. And I think, especially if it's, I mean, because you can take what was being said one way or the other, but assuming you were seeing it as being offensive, then, and to sit there and watch your husband laugh at you being ridiculed would probably, I mean, I think that would be not good. But if someone said something very bad to my wife, and let's just say she started crying, or I start seeing her sad, then, I'm going to say, man, you need to stop, leave her alone. Because I'm going to be, I mean, because we're going to have some problems if you don't leave her alone. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I think that you have to be ultimately the provider, and you have to be the protector as a man. That's just my personal opinion. I know that we live in a timeline now, or a time period now, where it's, I guess that may not be as popular as it used to be.
Yeah, and I guess it's also because I feel like in a lot of conservative households that are older, usually, the man goes out there and brings the bacon home, and the woman is home doing what she was born to do, which is nurture. But nowadays it's different. You have a household where both people are working.
Right.
Both people have to nurture. Both people have to bring the bacon home, and it's a lot of the times it's not by choice, but a lot of the times it's because you both have to work.
Right.
If not, you cannot make ends meet.
Right.
So you're caught in this, yeah.
No, what I was going to say is that that sounds good, but I mean, when we talk about a two-parent, I mean, because that's been going on for a long time. Like I said, my grandmother worked, but my grandfather, but I would feel some sort of way if my grandfather, and I'm not going to say some sort of way, but what if the man doesn't work? I mean, we're going into a society where, you see what I'm saying? Are we going to flip that way?
Well, in a lot of households, it's flipped.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you think about that? What do you think about a man who chooses not to work?
Well, I tell you, in my case,
Joe is clapping his hand. He says, yeah.
Oh, my God. In my case, it's very complex because in some areas I'm really conservative. I'm a first-generation Latina. You know, I can't be conservative in some aspects. And I think as a first-generation Mexican-American, I saw my dad work, never complain. So, I do expect the person that's next to me to work and be out there and grind and bring the bacon home.
Right.
So in that regard, I do see that as kind of off because we are biologically inclined to do certain things that, just add to a household.
Right.
And a man, is supposed to be like, as a Christian myself, the head of the household, the provider. And that's what they were built to do.
Right.
So if they're home, I don't know. I don't think that's the best, for lack of a better word, use in a way of someone who's the head of the household, per se.
Right.
There's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com.